As mentioned in the previous video, in Cangjie, we type characters using a maximum of 5 radicals or keystrokes. For single unit characters specifically, we always use a maximum of 4 radicals, and we obtain the codes by taking the first 3 and last radicals. For Ma, we can represent the whole character with 4 auxiliary shapes, so its code is 4 radicals long. Si sao gong fo. For the character A, it would take 8 radicals to fully represent the character. So what we do is we take the first 3 radicals and the last radical and ignore everything in the middle. So our code becomes yat zhong zhong yat. Similarly for the character Yi. It takes 5 radicals to fully represent the character, but we take the first 3 and the last one, ignoring the 4th radical, so our code becomes ya gum ya mo. For double unit characters, we take the first and last radical of the first unit, then the first 2 and last radical of the second unit. The character Zi is split into Qi and Bui. We take the first and last radical of the first unit, then the first 2 and last radical of the second unit. So our code becomes Guo Yan Yu San Gum. Sung is split into Sung and Sum. Take the first and last radical of the first unit, and if the second unit has fewer than 3 radicals, you just take all of them. In this case, the second unit is 1 radical, so our code becomes Mok San Sum. Hawk is split into the top component and the character Zi. We take the first and last radical of the first unit, and because Zi is comprised of less than 3 radicals, we just take all of them, so our code becomes Zhok Yu Gong Mo. For triple unit characters, we obtain the code by taking the first and last radical of the first unit, the first and last radical of the second unit, and the last radical of the third unit. For the character Hao, split into these 3 components, take the first and last radical of the first component, first and last of the second component, and the last radical of the third component. So our code becomes Zhok Yan Noi Guo Sui. For the character Bong, is split into these 3 components, and same thing, we take the first and last radical of the first component, first and last of the second component, and the last radical of the third component. So our code becomes Tou Guo Zhok Yat Yu. However, if the second unit is only represented by 1 radical, then we use a different rule. We obtain the code by taking the first and last radical of the first unit, the only radical of the second unit, and the first and last radical of the third unit. For the character Wui, the second component is a dot, which is only represented by 1 radical. So we take the first and last radical of the first unit, the only radical of the second unit, and the first and last radical of the third unit. And if your first unit is only composed of 1 radical, then you take that one as normal. So our code is Yan Guo Tin Ya. The character Tiu is similar to the previous example. The second unit is a line, which is represented by only 1 radical. So we take the first unit, the second unit, then the first and last radical of the third unit, and our code becomes Yan Zhong Yan Mo. One extra rule that needs to be explained is the omission rule. Characters that have an enclosing component, which is any one of these examples here, when part of a compound character, are considered the last radical in their unit when simplifying codes, rather than what they enclose. To give an example, Yu is a single unit character, and it's decomposed as Yat Zhong Yu Bo. But as part of the double unit character Din, the crown part of the character is taken to be the last radical in its unit. So Din is decomposed as Yat Yu Tin San and not Yat Buk Tin San. As another example, the character Mo is decomposed as Tin Buk Guo. The dot is the final part of the character. But in the character Hoi, the crown becomes the final radical. so it's decomposed as 水人田 book and not 水人田锅. Here are the practice examples for today. Try to figure out the Cangjie codes for the following characters. And if you want more practice, you can try to figure out the codes for the example characters from the previous video. In the next video, I'll review some general principles to keep in mind while decomposing characters. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Thanks for watching.